Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank, where I climb the online Series 8 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. The Players' Cup 4 online qualifiers took place this last weekend, and today we're actually featuring the team that finished number 1 in the entire competition. This was built by a Japanese player called Can't Fly, and like I mentioned, they were able to finish first in the competition with a rating of over 1800. So, really excited to try this team out. It actually reminds me a lot of the last team that won the Players' Cup online qualifiers because it features an offensive Porygon 2. As you can see, this Porygon 2 is very unconventional. It has Shadow Ball, Icy Wind, Hyper Beam, and Ally Switch. There's also a lot of surprises on this team, like double Helping Hand from Lapras and Urshifu, a Life Orb Regieleki with Screech and Rising Voltage, classic substitute Zacian, and then just a Lumberry Landorus T. So, as you can see, there are a lot of offensive options with this team. With the double Helping Hand, you can often make some pretty cool plays with Helping Hand into Porygon 2's max moves, or even potentially Dynamaxing Regieleki. Regieleki is also cool because you can combo Screech, and with so many strong physical attackers in Urshifu, Landorus, and Zacian, you're able to pick up some really big knockouts. For best of 1 tournaments like the online qualifiers, you definitely want to have some kind of element of surprise if you're aiming to have a high ranking, and so this team definitely has that, right? Has a lot of conventional Pokemon, but a couple of things that definitely will catch your opponents off guard. So I've linked the original creator's Twitter down in the description below. Huge congratulations to them for winning the tournament. This was actually a really big tournament for Japan as well because it was their online qualifier for Japanese nationals. So yeah, obviously a lot at play here, and yeah, this is just definitely a really interesting take. I mean, we used offensive Porygon 2 a couple times on this channel already, so at this point it's not like a completely new idea, but I haven't seen it very much in Series 8 specifically, and I think, yeah, just so many helping hands is definitely pretty interesting to see as well. Finally, Lapras is one of those Pokemon where when I go up against it in Series 8 now, I feel like I always expect Life Orb or like Light Clay, for example, and so it's cool to see a return to policy because I think nowadays players are a little bit more careless and will often just activate that weakness policy for you. So, without further ado, let's just jump into today's episode. Thanks so much as always for watching Road to Rank. If you enjoyed, please show support by leaving a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, I want to know what your favorite fast food chain is down in the comment section below, inspired by having lunch at In-N-Out earlier today. So, let's get started. Alright, first match of the day, and this is really cool. It's a Reshiram team. Now, Reshiram's interesting. It's probably just Life Orb, but there's also a Clefable, so I have to be a little bit careful about that. With Unaware potentially, although I guess we don't really have too many boosts that we would utilize with this team. So let's see. Lapras is actually really interesting because there's a decent chance they would activate our weakness policy. Porygon 2 is kind of a fun option to potentially max here, though. Landorus would be pretty good into Reshiram. I don't know how much I like Regieleki here. Now, it does have Screech, and you can do some pretty cool stuff with, like, Screech into Zacian double-ups. I kind of lean towards Porygon and Lapras lead here. We definitely want Zacian in the back. And then it's, like, Landorus or Urshifu. Urshifu always feels kind of safe just because of the potential Wicked Blow, but Landorus does hit so many of my opponent's Pokemon for super effective damage. The only downside is that I wouldn't be maxing Landorus. And then the question is regular Landorus actually worth it for us here? I don't know. Wicked Blow feels really nice if we can stall at our opponent's Dynamax. I'm going to go with Urshifu here instead. I don't know if that's the 100% correct decision, but we'll try it out. I think the upside here is that they obviously have a bunch of electric-type Pokemon, so the odds of them actually activating a weakness policy on Lapras are pretty high, and Lapras at +2 is going to look pretty good. Now, we have to watch out for Clefable, obviously. So, curious if that ends up coming out, especially because we do have a Zacian in Team Preview. And there it is. Okay, it's going to be Reshiram and Clefable. So with this, like, maybe we just Dynamax the Porygon instead, because what I'm seeing right now is, hey, I can just go Helping Hand Max Strike turn 1. Or sorry, Helping Hand, well, both, yeah. Helping Hand Max Strike, I mean, that would KO Clefable. But Reshiram targeting Porygon definitely seems like a possibility. That makes me a little nervous. Actually, no, why would I be nervous if I, well, It also definitely could be Focus Sash Clefable. That's my other fear right now. What are the odds of it being sashed? It might be probably smarter just to max Lapras and get screens up anyway. Lapras is pretty good into my opponent's team. But I'm going to try out this Helping Hand Max Strike strat. Okay, so they're going to max, no surprise there. Yeah, I don't know. The reason why I think this might not be the best play is because I could definitely see Reshiram, like, follow me plus Max Flare coming out onto Porygon turn 1. Porygon should survive, but then then we don't get any damage onto their Reshiram, right? But I do lower their speed. That helps a little bit. I mean, I think that another approach we could have taken is just go, like... Well, what could have been really interesting here was Hyper Beam Resonance into Clefable. Get the KO there, get screens up. That's actually not bad. Now, I'm curious if Clefable went for Follow Me in this position. Because I do think Focus Sash is definitely a decent option on that Pokemon. Okay, so we're going to get Helping Hand off. Yeah, there's Follow Me. Okay. Kind of expected there. That's fine. Yep, there's Max Flare. And yep, it targets Porygon. Oh, they actually didn't do nearly as much as I expected. I guess I really shouldn't underestimate Eviolite Porygon. Yep, there's Life Orb on Reshiram too. So we get Max Strike off. That is going to do a nice burst of damage. Should pick up the KO if they're not sashed, and they're not focus sashed. Okay. I don't know if I wanted them to be sashed here or not. This is also where having Parasol on Lapras could have been really interesting, because if we had Parasol, all we need is one more KO. We just KO whatever comes in, and then click Parasol, and then Reshiram's basically locked. But, I don't know. Definitely not the worst turn 1. Dropping the speed is valuable. You know, we have late game Zacian, that's always just so strong. They bring in Regieleki. Honestly, I think it's better to just max guard and protect here. Maybe better to just freeze dry here. Now they might double up onto Lapras, which would be a pretty impressive read on their end. But I think I'm willing to commit a max guard on Porygon this turn, because we want to stall out their Dynamax. Late game Zacian should do very well for us here. Although I suppose, I mean, it's not that amazing into Reshiram and the potential Rotom Heatless waiting for us in the back. So, let's see if my opponent actually doubles up into Porygon here. Or sorry, if they double up into Lapras. Because we should survive... I don't know. I guess now I'm worried about like Magnet / Life Orb Thunderbolt from Regieleki. But Porygon is definitely looking really scary from my perspective right now. Okay, they just go for Electro Web. That's kind of frustrating. I'm not sure Webs plus Flare actually would have KO'd Porygon. So if they flared into Lapras here, this is a really good play on their end. But if not, then we're actually in really good shape. So let's see who they targeted. Okay, yeah, they did flare into Porygon. Yeah, I felt like Porygon just is putting on so much pressure right now. You can't just ignore it. So we'll get the +2 freeze dry, and they've activated our weakness policy now, which is great. And there's the Focus Sash. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Electro Web did just under 50, which is good. So in this position, I am going to... Ooh, I like the idea of Hailstorming here. That changes the weather and KOs Aleki and gets chip damage onto Reshiram. Although that does break the Focus Sash on Urshifu. Is that worth it? Smack Strike does just do so much damage. I could also see a double up on a Porygon here, so let's think about that. I think I'll Freeze Dry into Regieleki here. What could they have in the back? You know what? I don't really want to break the Sash on Urshifu, so I will just... Especially because we have Sucker Punch from Urshifu into Aleki. Okay, they're just going to offer Thunderbolt. Yeah, I think we should survive a Max Flare and Sun. If not, that could be a little bit scary. But let's see. Okay, so another Max Flare comes out. Yep, that's fine. Nice job, Porygon, too. Takes 2 of those. Brilliant. I could have left with a Helping Hand, but the thing is, if I go Helping Hand, Max Strike, and then Porygon gets doubled up into, I get absolutely nothing from the turn, and I don't think that's worth it for us. So, yeah. Okay, so we get that speed dropped even further. Great. I still have Zacian in this late game. I think we bring out Urshifu first. I don't know. Hailstorm could have been a kind of cool play there, but I like the idea of conserving my Sash here. So, I don't know if that was the absolute right play, but yeah. So I can Sucker Punch into Aleki. Sucker Punch is kind of obvious though, so I could see Aleki protecting. Now, this thing is at -2 speed, so Wicked Blow into Reshiram's a guaranteed KO, and we have Sash, so you can't KO this Urshifu. So, what I like here, I think, is just going for a Shadow Ball into Regieleki and Wicked Blow into Reshiram. That covers for the potential Protect on Regieleki. And they switch out perfect. Yeah, great. Because we're Focus Sashed here, they have Landorus, but those crits not going to be valuable at all. I could have Icy Winded there. That would have probably just instantly won us the game, but I think we're still in really good shape right now, because you're not going to be able to break the Urshifu Focus Sash. So, yeah, Reshiram protects, but we just blow through the Protect with Wicked Blow, so perfect. Because what was the worst case scenario there, right? Worst case scenario would actually be Thunderbolt Para into Urshifu, but if you don't paralyze there, then you have no way out. We had a guaranteed KO onto the Reshiram slot there, and whatever they switched in would take a lot of damage as well. The only fear I'd have is like a late game Tapu Fini, but you can see how impressive this Porygon 2 is, right? We haven't even used our restricted Pokemon and brought it out yet, and this Porygon 2 alone is just giving us such a monumentous advantage to start out the game, which is really nice. So, Regieleki comes back out. Here we actually have Icy Wind, so that's actually kind of a cool tech. Let us think about this properly. How can I lose this game? Now, my opponent can obviously just Electro Web. Or they could Protect. Protect Regieleki and Earthquake is a possibility. The one thing I'm nervous about is Swords Dance Landorus. And we have Zacian in the back. So I'm definitely Icy Winding here. The only question with Urshifu is what I do. I could Sucker Punch Regieleki, Protect, or Wicked Blow either slot. I think I'm going to opt for Protect here. Oh yeah, actually that's always the right play. Because if Porygon faints, if it doesn't faint, we get an Icy Wind off. And if it faints, we get Zacian in. Yeah, exactly. To which then I can just Sucker Punch the Regieleki and Behemoth Blade Landorus. So I think this is always the correct play. It just covers for every single combination of plays my opponent can make. And they just go for Rock Slide. Okay, yeah, Swords Dance could have been like a little bit scarier there, but the reality is that the Zacian should outspeed anyway. So now we've locked our opponent into a really tough spot. The reason I didn't Icy Wind the Regieleki switch out, by the way, is because Icy Wind can miss, and in that position, I just wanted to guarantee a KO on Regieleki if it stayed in, because the miss could actually be really tough for us there. Sure, Icy Wind probably could have just won us the game instantly had I gone for it with the Landorus switch out, but, you know, I wasn't even 100% sure Landorus had been in the back. To be honest, I was kind of expecting Grotime or Fini over it. So, yeah, I'm happy to see Landorus here, though, because, like I mentioned, now we can just Behemoth Blade and Sucker Punch into Regieleki. There's really no counterplay here. Given that they switched out Regieleki, I also wonder if they actually just don't have Protect on it, but it would be kind of weird to see Focus Sash Regieleki without Protect. I think one of the main reasons that Sash is so good on Regieleki is because it offers Regieleki a lot more breathing room, and if you have Protect, then with Focus Sash and Protect, you can actually stay on the field for more than 2 turns, often 3 turns, and that's a really big deal for getting speed control. So they're not going to opt for Protect here. We're going to get that KO with Sucker Punch. In the end, it was just a really big deal that Porygon 2 could take a Max Flare. Oh, they are Scarfed. Okay. I was wondering about that. I think if you're my opponent, to be honest, you have to go for Earthquake. I know the reason why they didn't, because they obviously didn't want to KO their own Regieleki. But you're not going to win the game with Rock Slide in this endgame scenario ever, I think. Yeah, Rock Slide can flinch, but Regieleki is just going to feign from an attack from Urshifu. But I guess my opponent could hope for me to throw. But yeah, I think if they actually locked themselves into Earthquake, like, they could win with a timely critical hit or two. So that's like the tough thing about using Choice Scarf Landorus, though, right? Especially in those endgame scenarios where you obviously want to use Earthquake, but you don't want to lock yourself into it because you can hurt your partners. So yeah. Either way, we were able to weather the storm of Reshiram, which is a really big deal. Lapras was really clutch. That weakness policy got activated, did a lot of damage to the Regieleki, and overall Porygon 2 was just the clear MVP of that game. So you can see how strong this Analytic Porygon 2 is. This is a crazy team. Wow, this is awesome. Landorus, Giratina, Origin, Pheromosa, Savali, Celesteela, Regieleki. Very cool stuff here. Okay. I feel like we should probably just play towards maxing Lapras here. They don't have Ice Resists. So I like that. I don't know, though. I mean, Porygon 2 also has Max Hailstorm. And that's a pretty neat option. Do we go again with Porygon? I don't know. We can get screens up so easily this game, though, if Lapras just doesn't faint turn 1. Regular Porygon, honestly, is not a crazy idea. Like, I'm leaning towards Regieleki here, plus Lapras. We definitely want Zacian. Probably Urshifu. My hesitance in Porygon here is, I guess, namely the Pheromosa with close combat. But I suppose that's not even that scary. It's just, I think our policy getting activated is rather likely here. So, then our Lapras is doing even more damage. We get the screens up for the Zacian, and then we're looking really good. A couple things to watch out for from Pheromosa, obviously, is potential speed swap shenanigans. Another thing to consider in this late game is the Celesteela. We're going to want to try to conserve Regieleki if we can, because late game Celesteela could be a really big problem for us. It's going to be Pheromosa plus Savali. Is there any potential explosion strats here? Okay. See, my only fear here is, like, I want to conserve Regieleki if I can. We can easily get Resonance off to start this game, which is fantastic. Maybe I don't need to conserve Alecki then. Does Alecki really faint turn 1? I could see that happening. I think I'm going to go for Resonance onto Pheromosa and protect turn 1. Because I think Alecki is a pretty easy target to make here. I don't care if you close combat into Lapras. You'll just activate my weakness policy. I'll take a lot of damage, but that's fine because I'll get Resonance off. And then Alecki can actually take a hit or two. Pheromosa, I think, is almost always focus sashed here. Curious about what Savali is going to do for my opponent. Maybe just a parting shot, but I'm okay with that. Like I said, I just want to try to conserve Alecki because of the potential Celesteela in the back from my opponents, and we don't want to give up such an important tool in the early game. It's Focus Blast! And yeah, they target into Regieleki. Oh, it's a double up into Alecki. Very nice. Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, the reality here is that Gigantamax Lapras is just so bulky. We have room to make a play like that. Yeah, so there's the Focus Sash and Pheromosa, but this is great, because now I get screens up, right? I guess the only thing is whether or not I want to Electro Web here, because I could just go for Rising Voltage instead, but Electro Web does cover for the option of this protecting. It's just a little bit dicey if we actually miss. Definitely want a Geyser here into Savali. It's a 5% trade-off. I also don't know how fast Savali is here, so curious if we can outspeed after it's at -1 speed. Probably not, to be honest, but we should survive a tri-attack at this point. I just, like, it's tempting to go for webs here. I think I'm going to go for it. Do they protect? They did not protect. Okay, we do hit it. I don't know. That's a pretty interesting turn on risk versus reward, because missing there can be kind of rough, because then you probably double up into the Alecki and we probably get KO'd. But I wanted to cover for the option of protect, and yeah, now we outspeed and we get the Geyser, so we're looking really good right now. This is why I wanted to play towards... Oh, it's a Sylvest. Okay, okay. That makes sense. Very cool. We should survive a tri-attack, though, so as long as we don't get, like, frozen here, it should be okay. Freeze would actually be a little scary. Okay, it's a burn. That's fine. Take a burn any day. Okay, what's also really interesting is that we have Screech, right? So we can actually Screech, like, whatever we think is going to Dynamax from our opponent's end to set up the Urshifu for the late game. Oh, they actually bring out their Regieleki. Okay. Pretty cool. Well, you know we have weakness policy. I'm just going to launch Geyser into Regieleki. That's not focus sashed. We still have Zacian in back. I think this team is just so strong because of how good the max options are. So, no surprise to me that it won the Players' Cup qualifiers. I think we can just Geyser into Alecki here. And I really think I want to protect here with the Regieleki. Because we have screens up. My Lapras hasn't even taken any damage yet. Like, I think we're in really good shape right now. So I'm just going to go for a protect here in the off chance my opponent's last one is that Celesteela. It's extreme speed. Okay, a lot of text on my opponent's team here, but that's also not going to get the KO. And this is why, yeah, protect can be a really, really nice move on Regieleki. So that's another KO. We get a crit there, but I think with the Rain and Life Orb, that doesn't really matter. And Savali will probably try attack again. Oh, they've got Thunderbolt, okay, but that actually helps us more than anything. They just activated our weakness policy. So we know the Savali is Assault Vest, given that it took so little damage from our Max Geyser, so we outspeed it. Anything coming in, I don't think can one-shot regular Lapras in the HP range that it's at with Dynamax, or sorry, with screens up. So we can essentially turn this into a 4v1 very quickly. Their actual last one's going to be Landorus. They did not bring Giratina out. Okay, that's interesting. with that, then it's actually safer to just Rising Voltage into the Savali, get the KO onto that, and just Freeze Dry into Landorus here. Yep, I think that's just the safest route here. And they don't Dynamax, okay. Feel like they definitely needed to this turn, but I guess the game was over regardless of whether or not they did, so yeah. It is going to be Earth Power here into Lapras. But, oh, actually, I mean, the reason for not maxing is so that you do more damage with Earth Power, and so you can hope for a critical hit there. Because if you Dynamax and you're Sheer Force, then, yeah, you actually do less. So, that actually makes sense. In the end, Giratina did not come out from my opponent's end, but I can't really fault them. This does not do very well into this matchup, and once again, you know, as you may have seen with our time on this channel, we've used a lot of the more obscure restricted Pokemon. Giratina Origin is actually one that I want to try out, because we just used regular Giratina, but the main problem typically with a lot of the more niche legendaries or restricteds is that they just don't match up very well into a lot of common Pokemon in the metagame, unfortunately. So they have, you know, they can be really strong in the right matchups, but the reality is that if you're trying to win as many games as possible, you want to give yourself the best odds. And so, you know, using stuff like Zacian, Kyogre, Groudon, the Calyrex forms, for example, can definitely give you a better edge against the competition. That being said, you know, like I mentioned, as we've seen throughout this channel, in Series 8, like, every restricted Pokemon is viable. It's just a matter of how you support it properly. But yeah, that was a tough matchup for Giratina, especially with Lapras on our team here. This feels more like a Max Porygon 2 game to me. I don't know though. They do have Thunder Regieleki, but like, I'm worried about Eerie Impulse. They have 3 Pokemon that could Eerie Impulse us. Zacian is going to be so essential in dealing with the Calyrex Ice. I don't know. I mean, we could just get screens up with Lapras, bring out Zacian. Can I do anything cool with Screech? Just a question. I don't think we want to bring Landorus here, mainly because of Thundurus. I mean, Calyrex Ice also just destroys it, so I think it's Aleki, Urshifu, Zacian, and then one of Porygon and Lapras. I just can't figure out which one I want to Dynamax yet. Lean towards Porygon a little bit here. It has really, really good coverage. This one is tough. I think I'm going to go with Porygon, Aleki, Urshifu, Zacian here. I don't know if it's the absolute correct decision, because I definitely think you can make a decent argument for Lapras. Because Zacian under screens looks really good in this matchup. But it just makes me a little bit, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be nervous about the Aleki and Thundurus, though. The whole point is you want the weakness policy to get activated. But I'm worried about, like, Max Lightning into Thunderbolt. Yeah, there you go. Thundurus into Aleki, exactly. So, this was the exact reason why I was nervous. Okay. Well, I definitely don't want to activate Defiant. I have Max Hailstorm. Man, does that KO Thundurus? No, if you're Sylvester, it definitely doesn't KO. What to do here? You know what's interesting? If I Max Strike into Thundurus, yes, I activate Defiant, but I do a lot of damage, and then if you Max Lightning into Porygon, I can Rising Voltage KO your Thundurus the next turn. That's a little risky. This is probably not the best. Ooh. Uh-oh. I'm not sure I got that in on time. Protect was the last slot. Okay, that's a little scary. Wow, it's been a while since we've timed out. Yeah, it's probably better to just Hailstorm here, but I don't know. Because I could see my opponent going for a double on a Porygon. If we get a strike off, then our Aleki will outspeed. Although I think my Aleki, because I ended up timing, I think Aleki's just going to end up going for an attack instead. Which might not be great. But at least we get the Porygon attack in. Yeah, I probably should have just gone for Max Hailstorm instead. That also breaks the sash on their Aleki, which is helpful. So, their lead is why I didn't want to lead Lapras, but I feel like I had a better play to make on turn 1 here. I don't know, Hailstorm, it's probably a 2-hit KO though. Okay, yeah, we just Rising Voltage. That did a lot. That's not a Sylvest, is it? That's actually a really big deal if not. Because, like, I'll just KO you with Max Strike here. Very interesting. I mean, I would have been totally fine with the Protect there, too, because they would have just wasted their Volt Switch into that slot. Now, what's scary is, okay, they just bring an Incineroar. Yeah, I mean, if Thundurus faints turn 1, I think it's just game over. I don't think that's AV Thundurus, but I could be wrong. I just don't think Rising Voltage should do that much. Yeah, he just offered Max Knuckle. Into Porygon. Okay, that will, yeah, that works for me. I mean, you give Incineroar an attack boost, but that's not really that scary. Is that Life Orb? It's gotta be a Life Orb then, right? Yeah. Alright, well, Max Trick should one-shot this. Base 150. So strong. I guess the trick to winning the these online qualifiers is just use Dynamax Porygon too. No one expects it. It's just so strong. But, you know, memes aside, like, this team has a lot of good fundamentals, right? It's not just Porygon. It's, once again, taking a lot of standard Pokemon and using them in a slightly unconventional way. Just small stuff like helping Hand on Urshifu, helping Hand on Lapras, Max Strike on Porygon, Icy Wind, Shadow Ball. Those are not, all of those are not moves you typically expect. But yeah, I mean, my opponent just spent a max. And I think, once again, the reason they, you know, like, in these positions, you just, like, so rarely expect Porygon 2 to max, right? So it's like Porygon 2 maxing on turn 1 alone can just win you a game when you're using this team, which is awesome. So I'm just going to strike into Incin here. They don't have a switch into Max Strike, yeah. Now I can Protect. I think I'm down for a Protect. A double up onto Porygon shouldn't KO us anyway, even if you Thunderbolt Flare Blitz. Okay, they protect Regieleki. Perfect. The other cool thing is, yeah, now I drop Regieleki speed, so I outspeed with my Regieleki next turn. I don't know if Max Strike one-shots their Incineroar, but we'll see. I could definitely see a parting shot from Incineroar right now, but they just offer Fake Out and Protect. Okay, that's interesting. To be honest, this game is really hard to win after turn 1. That's the slight downside of Dynamax Thundurus, it feels like. That looks like Assault Vest Incineroar to me. I think, otherwise, yeah, we definitely should have done more. That's fine, because Urshifu should win the game. Let's not set up Max Hailstorm, because we don't want to break our Sash. I mean, Zacian and Urshifu so strong in this endgame. Yeah, I'm going to just Max Strike into Regieleki now, and go for an Electro Web. I guess Rising Voltage onto Regieleki might be a little bit more consistent. Once again, just because of the accuracy trade-off, and Regieleki probably is Focus Sash in this position. I think in the metagame right now, although a lot of Regielekis are running Life Orb and Magnet, you should get into the habit of thinking it's Focus Sash. Just because the strength of this Sash Regieleki is that it can actually stand up against the Dynamax Pokemon, right? And just the Sash alone gives you an extra turn. So they're actually just going to Volt Switch, but that's fine. I mean, it has to be Calyrex Ice in the back, but at this... Oh! I guess, like, no one wants to bring Calyrex Ice against this team because of Zacian. So, I mean, that's just a testament to how strong Zacian is. Like, the fact that it just single-handedly makes people not bring their restricted Pokemon is wild, right? So we get another Max Strike into Tapu Fini here, and at this point, like, we've distributed so much damage across the board, and we have a Zacian in the late game as well as an Urshifu. Porygon is still looking decently healthy as well. Maybe eat up a parting shot here. It's just going to be Snarled, that's fine. Oh wait, I can't, what am I saying? Can't parting shot if it's Assault Vest. I'm pretty sure it's AV. Okay, cool. So let's just go out into Zacian here. Sacred Sword into Incineroar is always a very guaranteed safe play. So I think we just go for that. That was a nice Volt Switch by my opponent to pivot out. But like I mentioned, I mean, Incineroar is already really carry protect, so here really should be a free KO onto the Incineroar slot. I'm going to go Hyper Beam. I don't think we want to switch out. You know what? I'm down to Hyper Beam. I want to see the Hyper Beam animation. Let's just... Oh, it is close combat and not Sacred Sword. The special defense drop makes me like a little bit nervous, but I think we still just go for it onto Incineroar. I'm not 100% confident Behemoth Blade actually picking up the KO here, so I'm not going to risk it. Yeah. Because, like, the way we could throw this game is we Behemoth Blade, like, not wanting a special defense drop, and then Flare Blitz, like, just KOs us, right? Because Flare Blitz actually does really well into Zacian. Oh, we're actually faster than Fini. Because we max strike them. Alright, well, Porygon gets the Hyper Beam up, but I don't think this will KO because of, yeah, Analytic not getting the boost. They're just going to Muddy Water. But at this point, Urshifu should close out the game for us, so it's still fine. Yeah, nice. We don't take that much damage. That was a crit on Porygon, too. This Porygon's a beast. What am I worried about? Is there any way? No, there's no way for my opponent to win actually because of Urshifu in the back, right? Because all we need to do is just Wicked Blow, and Tapu Fini's at -1 speed. The only my only question here is whether or not it's worth protecting Zacian. Because if you're for my opponent, the way you can maybe win is like intentionally not KOing Porygon here and then pick up a double KO the subsequent turn. I think I will just offer Protect here. But this game is closer than it looked, given how well turn 1 played out. So kudos to my opponent for finding the right plays. Okay, they're just going to Thunderbolt. We have to recharge. Okay, they're going to go for Calm Mind. That's fine, though, I think. Because you can't pick up a double KO now. And we have Urshifu, which should just seal up the game. Yeah, I don't think my opponent has an out here. I think what we do is just go for... I mean, Hyper Beam should KO, right? Even though... It's just that we could miss. That's actually scary. I could just Ally Switch here as well, but they could Electro Web. So I think I'm just going to Hyper Beam Fini here. And CC into Aleki. Like, I'm feeling fine because we have Focus Sash Urshifu in the endgame. But I guess Aleki actually might not be in Sucker Punch KO range. And that's the scary thing. So let's see. The Muddy Water accuracy drop is actually really scary because now we could miss, like, it's more likely we miss Hyper Beam. So it's no longer really a guaranteed win, which is definitely scary. They are going to just T-Bolt into us. That is going to be enough for a KO, okay. Nice, okay, Porygon's clutch and hits another Hyper Beam though. That's huge. I think they should get the KO. I mean, they're at like 10%. Yeah, okay. Good. But that was a little bit scary, right? Just because, like, the game looked like it was all but done after turn 1. But my opponent played to their outs. Like, good positioning with Fini. Good job in conserving the Regieleki. And a fair amount of the times, they can actually win that game. If we miss there, you pick up a KO. I'm not sure Urshifu can actually win the 2v1. There's no way... Yeah, I'm just going to Sucker Punch here because there's no way you can ever win against Urshifu. Because I want to see if Sucker Punch would have KO'd. Because if it would have, then I think we had this endgame pretty much locked up anyway. Okay, yeah, we're probably fine then. Never mind. But, I don't know. Wasn't 100% sure on it KOing there. Because if it can KO, and we end up in a scenario where it's Aleki plus Fini, I feel forced to go for Wicked Blow onto Fini. Just because it's a, you know, the more I leave it alone, the more it's going to heal up, and we have to address it. And it's, you know, yeah, I just don't want it to heal up. So then Aleki would bring us down to our Focus Sash. But then since Sucker Punch KO'd the Aleki anyway, I think we're probably okay. Alright, last match of the day, and this is some pretty cool stuff. Hydreigon, Entei, Kartana, Thundurus, Necrozma, Dusk Mane. Okay. Initial impressions, I feel like this is a Porygon game. We need to conserve Urshifu for the late game. Curious if we can do any cool stuff with, like, Screech shenanigans with the Regieleki. Necrozma's pretty scary. I can't do that much damage into it. It's very good into Zacian. So I'm nervous about Necrozma. What's my answer? Screens with Zacian up? Zacian is really bulky, by the way. Yeah, it's max HP, which is fascinating. I love that, by the way. Because you don't really need to outspeed, and you have speed control via Lucky and Porygon anyway. Also cool to see Entei once again. Okay, I kind of want to try out Aleki plus Porygon, Zacian, and Urshifu, I think. Let's go with that. I don't know, though, because, like, I do think Dynamax, Necrozma's going to just be a really scary threat to deal with. What's interesting is we could Screech into it and then go for a Wicked Blow with Urshifu. But I don't know. It's gonna be anti-Necrozma. I mean, this screams Bulldoze into weakness policy. Shiny Necrozma out of the way, so sick. We're gonna go P2 Aleki. I could Screech Max Strike turn 1. Actually, that feels okay to me. We just Screech into Necrozma and then Wicked Blow. Screech Max Strike into Entei. If we miss Screech, though, this is disastrous. It's really bad. Oh, wait, they're not maxing Necrozma. Huh. Okay. Okay. That's definitely a little bit scary. What is it going for? Trick Room? No way you would Trick Room, right? Okay, so we get Screech off. I mean, it's a really smart that they didn't Dynamax there, because if they did, that Necrozma would be toast. Oh, it's just Sacred Fire. Interesting. Okay, they just doubled up into Porygon. I mean, I don't mind that too much, I think, because that didn't even do 50%. Max Strike should get the one-hit KO here. Yeah, okay. That works for me. Now Necrozma's in a really awkward spot. You also didn't activate your potential weakness policy, so... I'm surprised to not see, like, Bulldoze into Dynamax, but maybe my opponent just wants to max something else. Like Kartana, for example. But, like, now I feel like I can just Electro Web. That drops your speed. I have Urshifu and Zacian in the back. Both are good there. So, like, I'm content to just max Strike and Electro Web, I think. Yeah, that seems okay. Sure, it's not doing that much damage into Kartana, but the main thing here is to basically keep lowering its speed because we have two Pokemon with fighting type attacks in the back, and they should match up really well into Kartana. So, okay. Yep, Kartana maxes, but I think the strength of this team is that this Porygon 2 often just picks up such a big surprise KO on turn 1 that it just gives you such a monumentous lead. And they protect with Necrozma, nice. Yeah, I mean, I don't really care about Necrozma right now. I don't want a Phantasm to activate a policy into it, so, like, all I'm doing is playing around it, basically. And if we can keep dropping our opponent's speeds, that's just so important with what we have in the back. That does not look like Assault Vest to me, but I'm not 100%. Yeah, I don't think it's AV. Which means it's actually going to take a fair amount of damage from Max Strike. They're just going to Overgrowth. That's fine. Yeah, into Porygon. Okay. But we should... I mean, it's really tough for my opponent to come back from this after turn 1, to be honest. I'm curious why they didn't Dynamax Solgaleo, but my best bet is that they were just worried about... Oh my gosh. Dude, Analytic Porygon is nuts. What? So it's clearly not Assault Vest, but then I'm really curious what the item is. It must be Focus Sash, I would guess. Okay. Yeah, that works for me. That certainly works for me. I mean, it's game over at this point, I think. There's no way you can beat Urshifu. And once again, we still haven't even brought out Zacian yet, and that's the main winner of this team. So, yeah. Feeny comes out, but not really much you can do with that now. Well, Feeny actually is pretty good into our team generally, but my opponent needed to do a lot more damage to stand a chance here. So, I'm just kind of surprised by that double up on a Porygon. You saw we were bulky enough to survive even if we didn't Dynamax, so... Don't know if that was really worth it for my opponent in the end, but hey, in the end of the day, we take those. Okay, Feeny is scarier to me. I'm just going to go for Rising Voltage into it and Strike into Feeny. Yeah, I don't really care about Necrozma. It's not going to do any damage to us, and it's at -2 defense right now. Feeny doesn't protect either, so that's perfect. Curious if this one-shots. Okay, that's not bad damage. Well, I thought this was going to be our last game, but it went by really quickly, so... Perhaps we'll play one more then. See how much Max Strike does here. It's not going to be very much because of the lack of analytic. Yeah, that feels more reasonable. But the fact we did 70% to a Dynamax Pokemon that resisted it feels insane to me. Yeah, there's Earthquake. So I think my opponent would have been better off maxing, but because we went for Screech 85% of the time, we're in a game-winning position right after turn 1. Because if you commit your Dynamax and we hit the Screech, then Urshifu should just cleanly knock out Necrozma. And if you've already committed your Dynamax and we have our Focus Action attacked on Urshifu, there's no way you can threat an Urshifu. So then what I can do is just Max Strike with Porygon. So this just felt like a good matchup for us. Porygon was really essential though, so I'm glad we ended up bringing it over the Lapras, because Lapras would not have contributed very much. But now we get the Wicked Blow off, -2 defense on the Necrozma, and this should be a KO. Beautiful. Yeah, honestly, I don't even know what my opponent could have done against the Ball Analytic lead because we had Screech. Like, the main thing we needed to deny in this game was basically the setup from Necrozma. That was the most important thing, so we were able to do that effectively. As soon as we get that defense drop onto it, even if it Dynamaxes, I think we're actually in very, very good shape. So, that was a pretty straightforward game, but I also think my opponent was just kind of limited in options. I think their turn 1 play, like, we got to punish them really heavily, and I think that's one thing this team does really well. it can just win you the game on turn 1 off a really surprise KO from the Porygon too. So yeah, I mean, this reminds me once again a lot of that last international winning team with also, you know, 4 attack Porygon. So I think that's the trend. You just got to use offensive Porygon. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I already said this earlier today, but it is just the element of surprise that can often really give you an edge, especially when it's something that is really strong in best of 1. So yeah. Anyway, let's play a 5th game here today. That is a cool team. They have Kyogre, Kingdra, Moltres, regular Kanto Moltres, which we used this in Series 7. Torkoal, Whimsicott, and Rillaboom. Who do we Dynamax? I never like maxing Lapras when there's a Rillaboom, so I don't want to do that. But Kingdra Kyogre is so oppressive that I feel like I kind of need to. Could be max Porygon. I think I'm down for Lapras, Regieleki, Urshifu, Zacian. I mean, I don't think I can max Landorus into Kingdra Kyogre. Kingdra Kyogre is looking pretty scary here. I think if I don't bring Lapras, I get completely destroyed by it, so I need to have an answer against it. But that's a really cool team from my opponent's end, to be honest. So let's see how this plays out. I don't know, I kind of expect Kingdra Kyogre, but they might counteract it. Yeah, oh, I got outlet completely here. Really well done. This is a problem for us. They read exactly into the Lapras. Like, this counters me really, really hard. So, like, Landorus T would have demolished this, but obviously I don't want to lead Landorus T because they have Kingdra Kyogre, but my opponent basically was one step ahead of me. And I didn't even bring Landorus, so I can't even switch this Lapras out into Landorus, for example. I think we probably just go out into Zacian right away. And I can Electro Web here. This is a really bad lead on my end for this specific matchup. So then the question is, do I have a middle of the ground lead? And what I mean by that is something that covers both Kingdra Kyogre and Whimsicott plus Rillaboom. I don't know how I do. Because I feel like I need Landorus. What about Zacian? No, that still sucks against Kingdra Kyogre. I should have just bet my opponent wasn't going to lead Kingdra Kyogre because I have the Lapras. Okay, but they do max the Rillaboom, so I got them to... I baited out the max, which is good. Because, to be honest, they need to knock out the Lapras. If they don't KO Lapras, we are in such good shape in the late game because they're probably going to have Kingdra Kyogre in the back. So let's see. They don't Tailwind either. We miss Electro Web on Whimsicott, though. That's a bummer. That's definitely not what you want to see to start the game, because it could break a potential Focus Sash there, and that's kind of valuable. There's the drum. Is it Trick Room coming out? Oh my gosh. Wait. No way. That's awesome. I never saw that coming, and I actually had no counterplay to that, because if I stay in with Lapras, it just gets wrecked. Kudos, 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 kudos. Seriously, kudos. That was sick. I can double protect here. I think we have to. But now it's looking pretty tough, because you get so much damage off with Rillaboom, and even after Rillaboom's max is over, you can Grassy Glide. Now, the upside is that, like, max Lapras has policy, but what a nice Trick Room there by my opponent. Ooh, and the max Quake to get a special defense boost. So this is exactly, this like is shows like good team building, right? Because on paper, like if there's no Rillaboom on this team, it just absolutely gets demolished by Lapras. But Rillaboom is Life Orb and has max Quake, so it's clear, like just designed to be such a good answer against Lapras specifically. And in the end, my Zacian is actually going to end up just basically doing nothing, unfortunately. Trick Room is not a terrible matchup for this team, but with the composition I brought specifically, I would have never expected Trick Room in Team Preview, honestly, either. So I don't feel bad about that. Like, this is just, once again, the beauty of the element of surprise in Best of 1. Max Quake coming out. And yeah, I could go for Double Protect. That's probably our best option here. Yeah. Whew. I like Screech into the Rillaboom here, because then I can maybe Sucker Punch. We don't get the double, though. This is looking really tough, yeah. That was so nicely done on my opponent's end. Good drum solo there into Zacian as well, because what that does is cover for any switch out options there, because I could switch into Landorus T, for example. Now, I obviously know I don't have Landorus T, but they don't know that yet. So I'll say the only upside for us right now is that we have at least all other Dynamax, but they have Trick Room up, and I have relatively fast Pokemon right now. A lot of damage from Moonblast. Screech at least hits, so maybe giving us some slight opportunity. Because honestly, I think Lapras can 3v1 if their last two are Kingdra and Kyogre. If we maxed, well, actually not even. We do a little damage with Lapras. Like, I feel like that was just a game-winning Trick Room right away. And I would have never seen that coming in Team Preview. Like, if my opponent had any slow Pokemon, well, they have Torkoal, I think, right? Wait, was there Torkoal? Am I tripping? Yeah, there was Torkoal. But, like, when you see my opponent's team in Team Preview, you do not think, hey, that's going to be a Trick Room team. I'm thinking, like, Whimsicott here, it was not a Trick Room team. Whimsicott here probably has Trick Room specifically to counter opposing Trick Rooms, because their team is actually rather hyper-offensive, but that was a really good scenario by my opponent to identify, hey, I can actually Trick Room here, and that's going to be great for us. So we have 2 turns of Trick Room left. I have Sucker Punch. This probably just switches out, doesn't it? You switch out and just Moonblast into me? Oh, this is brutal. I'm going to Protect and switch out, because I think the only chance we can win here is baiting my opponent's Rillaboom into switching out. Okay, so they go for that. That's good. It's Torkoal. That's not great. And Kyogre's going to be my opponent's last one. What we need to do is make sure we save our Lapras so it doesn't get wrecked by Rillaboom, but that's kind of hard to do right now. And they have one more turn of Trick Room to work with. Oh, they just played this game so well from Team Preview and the Trick Room. Perfect game plan. Way to not get, like, baited into Kingdra Kyogre here, too. So, big props to my opponent. Okay. I can Sucker Punch into Whimsicott, Max, and Resonance now. That's what I lean towards. Torkoal's not going to be a threat to us at all, so we ignore that. I say that, but if it yawns into Lapras, we're doomed. So, let's see. If it has Yawn here, most Torkoals do, I think it's just over, but you know, I'm playing to my outs because right now we don't know that Torkoal has Yawn. And if it doesn't, or if my opponent misplays and doesn't go for it, Lapras could definitely pull off this comeback still. Wow, is it fake tears? Oh my gosh. My opponent's just putting on a clinic right now. Perfectly played. Yeah, that's going to win them the game, I think. Because Lapras has taken too much damage now. I bet it's Tailwind and Trick Room Whimsicott. That makes a lot of sense with their team comp. Tailwind, Trick Room, Fake Tears, Moonblast. So like now they can Tailwind 10 this game. I mean, I absolutely got crushed here, but I like no regrets, honestly, because like my opponent won the team preview game really hard. Kudos to them for making that call. I think I could have seen the Rillaboom coming for sure, because it's pretty telegraphed, right? If you look at my team, hey, Lapras beats everything but Rillaboom, so my opponent needs to prioritize Rillaboom. And honestly, if they didn't have Trick Room, I felt fine. But the Trick Room was the game changer here. I didn't even consider that as a possibility. And surprise Trick Room on Whimsicott can be such a good tech sometimes. I'm gonna Helping Hand, Max Geyser. I'm not gonna give up. I think we still have a slim shot at winning this one. No, Rillaboom just wins actually at this point. We don't have any, like, our Zacian is out of the way, and I don't have Landorus for Intimidate, so I think it's probably done for. But I have no shame in losing a game like this, because my opponent just definitely played better than me with the lead, and then also the surprise Trick Room tech, so good. So let's say I were to replay this, how would I approach it differently? I'd actually consider leading Porygon 2. You know what's a really interesting lead? Lapras Porygon 2, because then you actually have the flexibility of maxing either option, and while you really want to max both of those Pokemon with this team, you do have the flexibility of also going for like Helping Hand from Lapras' end or Ally Switch from Porygon's end. So you actually have pretty good utility. They don't protect Torkoal, so at least you should get a KO onto that, but I think Rillaboom just wins the game for my opponent at this point. I could have just gone Sucker Punch Max Geyser here. Yeah, Max Geyser may have just KO'd anyway, so I think I like that play more. Because then if we pick up a double KO and your last two are Rillaboom plus Kyogre... Wait, oh, they survived? Oh my gosh. Okay, then it's game over. Wow. Is it AV Torkoal? I know the sun was up, but that was... I mean, that... It wasn't... We didn't... Was there a Focus Sash? I didn't think there was. But that looks like 1 HP. Holy cow. That's wild. That is actually wild. No way. Wow. Alright, well, this was a fun set of games, and I can't complain. I think this team is really strong. As you see, you can often just gain such a monumentous advantage on turn 1, but we didn't gain a monumentous advantage on turn 1. This was the one game out of the games we played today where we didn't have a great team preview matchup. Sorry, not team preview matchup. Actually, like, I think I just could have been better in team preview and predicted what was coming our way. But really cool team from my opponent here. Great execution. And once again, that's the mark of good construction, right? That last game was interesting. Yeah, I mean, generally just, it was just good. Such a good game plan. So let's say, yeah, if I know, given what my opponent brought, like, I don't think they even had Kingdra. So if I were playing a best of 3, my adjustment is I would lead Landorus T. Landorus T would crush their lead and would do well into Torkoal. And if Kyogre's their last one, well, that's not really scary if you don't have a Kingdra in the back as well. So it should be Rillaboom plus Kyogre now. But, yeah, Life Orb on Rillaboom, so smart. You just increase your damage output, and Zacian didn't take that drum solo super well. So this is the upside of potential offensive Rillaboom. So if I were to replay this, yeah, the game plan would be to max Porygon. Or sorry, I would say Landorus. Although Porygon's not a bad option either, but I think I would lead Landorus, probably what would I do? Landorus, Porygon? My Zacian just did nothing in this game for us, so like that needed to provide more value for us. Although, you know what's really interesting? Zacian kind of sucks in this matchup. Like, there's actually an argument to make to not bring it, because my opponent has 4 resists. They have 2 fire and 2 waters. And Sacred Sword doesn't even do that much into most of those Pokemon. So, oddly enough, this could have been a matchup where we didn't bring Zacian. It still works as a Rillaboom switch-in, though. But I just got crushed by Rillaboom. Yeah, that's basically it. Was not prepared for the Gigantamax in the early game. Great Trick Room from Whimsicott as well. So, yeah. But I can't be sad about that. I mean, obviously, like, really great play from my opponent right from turn 1. Really good on them to not get baited by Kingdra. It's so interesting because I think a best of 3, if we were to play, would be so different. Like, Kingdra would actually be a really good option if you're expecting me to play towards Landorus, for example, instead, or even Porygon. And if you expect me to, like, drop Lapras, then you can fully go with Kingdra and Kyogre. It's like Kingdra and Kyogre does super well into almost everything, but it just gets completely hard-walled by Lapras, so you need to get answer against it. Either way, though, that was a really fun set of games. You can see the potential of this team. I'm not surprised it got to #1 in the in the Players Cup 4 online qualifier. So hopefully you enjoyed watching. Thank you to the creator for the team. Feel free to try it out yourselves. This team is incredibly strong. And thanks so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you all next time. All right, peace.